want to know everything there is to know about you.
Now I'm going to introduce me.
You must have spotted her by now. She's always there.
Don't I deserve love?
Somebody has to like me best.
Hello and welcome to the Don't Know Her podcast. I'm Scott.
And I'm Michael.
And this week we are here to talk about something a little bit different.
Yes, so we have already recorded future episodes, but we thought we would take this week, the week after the 93rd Oscar ceremony, and we are going to be looking at the actors that we really want to champion and that somehow didn't make it into the Oscar race really at all. And we're going to look at each of the four categories: lead actress, lead actor, supporting actor, supporting actor. And we're going to put forward somebody we really like and who we really recommend you check out, regardless of what the Oscars think. Who are they?
Yeah.
Who are they to make
Exactly.
any kind of judge?
Exactly. Here we are coming through with an alternative Oscars.
And we will reflect a little bit on who was nominated and who won when we go through the categories. And as this is the first show we're recording since putting out our first episode, we just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone listening, all the support, all the lovely messages, everyone that's rated us already. And we'd ask you to keep, rating us and sharing and doing all that great stuff that you've been doing. It's really lovely for people to listen.
No, it is.
And to engage with what we're doing and saying. And also people and checking out films, which is, we love films. So the idea that you're kind of in some small way paying it forward to share the love of whatever film or whatever actor is terrific.
No, exactly. To be honest, I thought it was just going to be us listening to ourselves over and over again, and that would be the extent of its reach. So it's so nice that so many of you have listened and seem to be enjoying and are coming up with some fun suggestions for down the line. So please keep that coming too. They are on the list.
Yes, thank you. And let's get into it. So we're going to approach this slightly differently to the actual ceremony. We're going to reverse the order of the categories, which I hope is not as controversial as what the Academy did, of putting best film before best actress and best actor and causing all sorts of...
Let's avoid that shitstorm. So we start with Best Actor and we're completely covered. No problems here.
So Anthony Hopkins surprised, I think, everybody, including the Oscar producers or the Oscar show producers, in winning Best Actor. He wasn't there at the ceremony. Everyone presumed it would be Chadwick Boseman for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which would have been an incredible way to end the show if he had one. But Anthony Hopkins in The Father won. Incredible performance.
Yeah, undoubtedly. It's amazing. It's amazing. I think it is Anthony Hopkins is an all-timer and it's maybe the best he's ever been in certain ways. I'll always champion The Silence of the Lambs, but it's not a bad win at all. It's not like somebody snuck in at the last minute who shouldn't be even getting close to taking it from Chadwick Boseman. Not that it was ever to be taken from. So that's why it's confusing. There was a lot of furore around Chadwick winning and that going to be a thing and people just assuming that would be the case. So when Anthony Hopkins did win, I think and placed at the end of the ceremony, it creates a bit of an awkward dud ending, unfortunately, and an otherwise quite smooth and interesting ceremony under the circumstances. So, yeah.
I'm not sure. Smooth ceremony, it may not be what people remember it for, but totally. And of course, The Father, on the face of it, Anthony Hopkins is an older straight white man in a film called The Father. It sounds very Oscar baity, but actually the film is very, it is not your traditional sort of biopic fare that might win that sort of award. I'm trying to think of something that also deals with mental health or dementia, like Iris. Iris to me is a very kind of bog standard sort of Oscar playing sort of film, but The Father is is not. It's really
No.
great, it is frustrating because it's not people can't watch it. So the idea of like Anthony Hopkins, this established man, coming in and taking this award, of course that is confusing. But yeah, no, he's incredibly deserving, as is the other nominees. Well, I would say Riz Ahmed and Stephen Yen. So Riz Ahmed for Sound of Metal and Stephen Yen for Minari. Gary Oldman is the person I would push out. Gary Oldman in Mank, who I don't like saying negative things, but
no. Well, let's just assume for the for the purpose of what we're about to do, we're going to drop in another name. So sorry, Gary, we're just going to take you out for now, and we're going to put in someone else. And Michael, who are we submitting here?
So yes, Gary, good but not close, but no cigar is what I would say. And we would put in Delroy Lindo in The Five Bloods.
Hey man, what the fuck are they staring at, man? Who? It's two right there. Shit. There's two over there, man. They've been staring at you for the last 10 minutes, man.
Oh, just chill, man. Just chill.
Keep on staring at me, man. Staring at all of us.
There's no question to me that there would be anyone other for Best Actor that I would put forward. It's shocking to me that The Five Bloods is a Spike Lee film. It went direct to Netflix. It was going to go to Cannes Film Festival before it cancelled last summer. And it's a story of 4 friends who were in the American Army in the Vietnam War, and them returning to reclaim gold that was dug that they buried. So they're coming back to find this treasure. There's a lot going on, and Delroy Lindo, it is his arc, is his story in many ways.
Yeah.
His son gets involved. You find out a lot about his life from the war to this point. You find out he's voted for Trump. You kind of get a sense of why that's happened and why this. He's disenchanted with life. He's suffering from PTSD. He's a pretty broken man, and he's very vulnerable. Is not the right word, because he is like physically not vulnerable, but mentally is very vulnerable and physically very strong. So he's actually quite he has such presence, like in the dynamic between his friendship group. They're both trying to like relax him, but also totally know they've no power. They have nothing to say. All they can try to do is lure him into a sense of ease, which only works for some of the movie. So I've watched it a few times, mainly because I'm forcing people like yourself to rewatch it.
Yeah.
so we'll simultaneously watch it from different locations. Like, if I was to imagine why The Five Bloods and Delroy Lindo with it weren't successful when it came to like mainstream awards, because it did do, get some success at Critics Awards, is the film itself is complicated. It's talking about a lot of different sorts of issues. Like it comes back to Black Lives Matter really at the end, and that's what I guess Spike Lee does often, but it's not as digestible to a mainstream audience as something like Black Klansman, I would say. Like, it's not a simple story, because the Vietnam War in itself has its own like baggage, which he, without any kind of reservations, kind of dives into it and does like opens this complex box and doesn't try and look for easy answers. And Delroy Lindo is a victim of that war. So anyway, there's a whole lot of things for that. And the other reason I think people wouldn't have like noticed it is Netflix, because it's still very rare that any studio would have more than like a handful of films in the Oscar race. And Netflix had like Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Mank, the Trial of Chicago 7. So they were pushing those, and like going back to like what we said at the start of this Best Actor bit, like they probably were hedging all their bets on Chadwick Boseman winning and being their like play for Best Actor.
I can only assume so. Yeah, I think that sounds right.
Yeah, It's such a shame. And well, I mean, we should flag the obvious thing here. The connection here is Chadwick Boseman is in The Five Bloods. He is in flashbacks of the guys in Vietnam fighting, and Chadwick Boseman's character dies. He doesn't survive the war. And Chadwick Boseman was being nominated for supporting actor in different places too. So I guess Netflix just really was like, we can't have Chadwick Boseman be nominated twice. Like, we want to just push him for Ma Rainey, and The Five Bloods is going to be pulled away. But it would have been a tough sell anyway, because it is very it's kind of like a chaotic, epic story that isn't perfect. But God, it's like fascinating to watch.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, it's so interesting, as is anything Spike Lee touches, basically. In The Five Bloods, and specifically Delroy Lindo's character, I feel like it is set up and has moments which I think do feel like not intentional grabs for Oscars, because that minimizes the performance and what's going on, but there are moments in there that feel easy to latch onto, and therefore I'm surprised, even if Netflix decided not to push this film, that people didn't latch onto it, because there is this almighty moment which would have been clip heaven if it had been any other year, because they didn't actually really use clips for the acting categories at the Oscars this year.
Towards the end, he has this like Shakespearean type monologue. I mean, to say Shakespearean makes it sound very old fashioned. It isn't. It is this like piece to camera that is the spoken word. Like, it's gorgeous, and it doesn't feel out of step with the rest of the film.
Bathe me in that lymphoma, Agent Orange herbicidal stew. Those army bastards, they scorched the earth with it, sprayed that shit in the air and the water, my bloodstream, my cells, my DNA, and my motherfucking soul. But I ain't dying from that shit. You will not kill Paul.
And he's amazing. He is amazing. The things he's like finally like releasing out of his mouth, like all of this kind of baggage. Oh, it's hard. Like, there are, I mean, all of the nominees, even Gary Oldman, there are moments where it's really like they're great, they shine. But I find it hard not to come out of the Five Bloods and not think like that Delroy Lindo is one of the best performances ever, let alone like this year. So it is strange that he didn't feature anywhere, not at the Golden Globes, not at the SAG Awards, not at the BAFTAs, and then not at the Oscars. So let's go to Best Actress, Scott.
Yeah, so I decided to flag up an actress who has certainly been rising up a lot, more so in television over the past few years, and I think that moment is still going to come, and we're going to see lots of amazing stuff from her. But that is Carrie Coon, who was in Sean Durkin, who directed Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene a handful of years ago. This is his follow-up film to that. So The Nest is certainly a very different film from The Five Bloods, for example. It's far more clinical, shall we say, and atmospherically on another side of the scale from that. It's quite chilly, icy, look into a family at a point of flipping everything in their lives on its head, as they seem to do so often. So basically, Carrie Coon plays a character called Alison O'Hara, who is married to Rory, played by Jude Law. And he is someone who is very much driven by his work, and his ego seems to really drive the choices they make in their life, and they're always kind of following him on his whims, and, you know, I have got this promotion, so we must do this. So he uproots them from their family house in America, having already moved around quite a lot, and says, we have to go back to London. I've got this job opportunity, so we're going to live outside of London in this great house. We're going to do it. It's going to be great. Don't you worry. So pack up their stuff and off they go. And it's a really, really interesting little film. It almost plays like horror at times, even though it's not at all, and it has no immediate elements which would suggest it is a horror film. But much like Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene, it just has this foreboding air the whole time, and the sense is something's just off the mark and it doesn't feel right, and it's going to catch up with them. And she has these moments which dotted throughout, which are so impressive as she sort of is catching up more and more with what her husband is up to, and sort of confronting the issues at hand, and that money seems to be slipping away, and they're losing the handle on everything, and he's overdoing it. He gets the biggest house he possibly can, he buys the flashiest things, gets the biggest stables for her horses. Everything is just money thrown at it when there's not the money to be had. So she basically sees through the bullshit, and she's had enough of it. And there are two scenes in particular where she's out to dinner. The first one just with him, and she just flips the gender dynamic on its head.
All right, well, if you have all this money coming in 10 days, then you can buy me dinner and we can order whatever we want.
Of course.
Of course.
Are you ready to order, sir?
Yeah, I think so.
We'll start with a dozen oysters and the shrimp cocktail. My princess will have the Chateaubriand, and I'll do the whole roasted sea bass. Let's start with a bottle of white, and then we'll have red with our dinner, whatever you think goes best with our food. Don't look at him. I've told you what we wanted. Thank you.
And he goes away, and they have this argument. It's just like, oh, this is really wonderful to see you cutting through the bullshit.
And then Jude Law tries to win it back.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to control the dynamic at the table when the waiter's gone. And the waiter comes back and he's like, here's your wine. And he's offering it to Carrie Coon to taste it. And he says she doesn't know.
Don't give it to her. She hasn't got the faintest fucking clue about wine.
So Carrie Coon grabs the bottle and drinks from it, the bottle directly. And it's like...
It's fine. We'll take it.
For fuck.
Like, yeah. There's no... This woman will not be messed with.
Mm-hmm.
And the camera loves her.
Yeah, the camera absolutely eats her up. And there's just so much. She has great presence. She casts both this steeliness, but it's really complex. It's a very cerebral performance. It's really intelligent. The work, it's sort of similar to things she was doing in like The Leftovers on television. It's really complex, nuanced, amazing work. And it's just so delicious. I love The Nest anyway. It's just sort of hit into a lot of things I love about cinema. And I am a fan of sort of chillier, icier dissections of family life and things like this. And it's a really great example of it. And yeah, I just love it. This one-upmanship game that is played between the two of them throughout. But she has the upper hand because she knows that he's full of shit. And she just sees right through it. And it is so good to see. And I would absolutely have had her in the category. It felt at the start of the sort of season, I mean, I guess at the point where things were getting very strange with the pandemic anyway, but it did certainly feel like a film that was going to be inserted into the conversation. But besides it winning in some critic circles and getting attention there, it just kind of lost the traction. I think it had maybe still a bit of a muddled release. In the UK, it's still not probably going to be fully released until summer. And I think that might have hindered it too. But perhaps, again, it's just something which is maybe too icy, too chilly, too removed for the Oscars in particular to get behind. But she is undeniable, in my opinion, in this. And it would have been a really fun entry to what is already a great category. I wouldn't want to lift someone and take them out because that's a great category. But I would put her towards the top or better than most of that category.
Yeah, I mean, at least have her somewhere in the conversation. But as you say, she didn't really make it. Let's go to the choice for support, or let's go to supporting actress.
Please.
Which, of course, went to Yoo Jung-young in Minari.
Yeah, that's good.
Who, I mean, she did basically tell everybody in her speech, like, you've been saying my name all wrong, but I'll forgive you because you've given me this award.
Yeah, and we're now going to do it again.
Fantastic, does great speeches. You can see why people would like flock to vote for her. Really good character in Minari, a way to reward Minari, which is this beautiful film about an immigrant family kind of making a farm, and about that family unit. It's when we just talk about the nest, Minari seems like a dream scenario of a family, even though they have a lot of bad things going on too. But it's so much more respect and love and kindness.
Yes,
in that.
kindness. Yes.
So yeah, really great. And yes, Glenn Close got her 8th nomination. Didn't win, but I don't think anyone thought she was going to win for Hillbilly Elegy. Olivia Colman for The Father, very good. I mean, I say very good, incredible. I couldn't stop crying. Amanda Seyfried in Mank, who was kind of like in the back of my mind. I'm like, oh, I would love her to win, but she'll get her time. She was crying the whole time at the ceremony. Did you notice that? She was very emotional, which is good. I would be too. I mean, I was crying in my bed, so I wasn't in a beautiful gown, sat beside David Fincher. So she had more reason to be like that. And Maria Bakalova from, I'm just going to call it Borat 2 because I can't say the title.
Borat subsequent movie film.
Yeah, but then it goes on and on.
Yeah, it's
anyway, all like Hillbilly, questionable in terms of film, but those nominees are all very strong. Like all those performances.
Yeah.
So, but there is someone that actually is just been like so under the radar, and it's Leslie Manville in a film called Let Him Go.
Now, who can I interest in a glass?
Oh, no, thank you.
Well, I don't mind drinking alone.
It's a movie that in a traditional, like non-COVID world, I bet would have been released and would have made money, and then there would have been some traction for some kind of recognition, and it would have maybe landed on Leslie Manville, who has just been Oscar nominated for Phantom Thread. And it's this kind of old-fashioned Western with Diane Lane and Kevin Costner playing a couple who lose their son, and their daughter-in-law and their grandson, they form a new family unit with a new husband, and that husband takes them away back to his mother's, like, part of the, like, whatever, the wild west, and Leslie Manville plays the mother. She's this matriarch. She's like part like Betty Davis, part she's like hyper feminine in many ways. Like she has this big hair and she's like dolled up, and she's cooking for her boys and she's talking about her boys. I don't know if all listeners will know this reference, but it's very much like Peggy Mitchell in EastEnders, sort of, get out of my pub sort of shit. We hear a lot about her, like there's a whole lot of tension around her, which, I mean, this is one of my favorite like tropes of a supporting character. Is like you're building them up, and then when you meet her, like the first shot is she's hidden behind a lampshade, her head, we see like smoke billowing from like a cigarette. The table is set, she's at the front of the table, it's like she's ready for her meal, like, and this is what they're going to have to do. And so Diane Lane and Kevin Costner have arrived in the house, and they have to play her game, but she gives off this energy as if like one slip up and she will tear you apart. Leslie Manville does play all sorts of parts, and obviously in Phantom Thread she's playing quite a powerful person within that household. But for her to play this kind of villain and like violent, and like some of the things she comes out and like either implies or says, like she's basically implying that she will kill everybody. Like she's going to do anything it takes to not have her family fucked over. There's this incredible scene further on in the film where she goes, she finds out that Diane Lane and Kevin Costner are trying to plan to get the child back to their home. And so she arrives with her sons in their motel. And Diane Lane's like, oh, but you can't really want your son to be with our grandchild because like he hits him. And she's like, hitting a boy, that means nothing. And then Diane Lane says, but he also hits Lorna, the wife. Leslie, like, her face changes and she turns to her son and she's like,
You hit your wife?
And so it's like it's gearing up. So then she asked Diane Lane,
how'd he do it? With his hand.
Alberta Einstein. Yeah, I know with his hand. I'm asking how. Like. Was it like that?
Diane Lane is scared shitless, I would imagine. It plays out like you just do not know what this woman's going to do. She slaps her son and asks Diane Lane.
How was it? It was harder. Harder? Like.
But instead, Leslie turns and whacks Diane Lane. And the scene like escalates and escalates. I'm not going to spoil it, but like she takes out I don't know what you'd call it. Let's call it a blade. It's a very but she's the one in control. It's a really, I think, a really impressive performance in a film where, as old fashioned as it is, it's like a Western, and trying to like connect your family or find someone you've lost or someone that's taken from you, all this sort of stuff. It would play so well to an audience in a cinema. And it would have made money because it is very strong. Like it's on Rotten Tomatoes. Part of me was like, oh, maybe it's really like it's not been received very well. It's like 86%, and people seem to really like it. And the performances, especially, I won't spoil the ending, but it is like it's so tense. Like I switched it on as like an escapist thing, and I was totally engaged. As well as Kevin Costner and Diane Lane, as well as Les Manville. I loved it. It was watching her was like electric.
Yeah. Which she is. I mean, Leslie Manville is definitely an electric performer. Yeah, this one did just seem to fly under the radar. I'd heard of the film, but I can't say I would have known that she was in it. And for UK audiences, certainly, it has actually just gone on to VOD platforms, so it is readily available now. And in other countries, I imagine it probably already is, because we're always last to the party on things like this. So I'm excited to give it a go.
Yeah, Leslie, like compared to say like Delroy Lindo or Carrie Coon, I'm more than happy that she sat this one out, because she will be back with God knows what she's going to have in the future. But no, she's brilliant. And then I guess our last category is supporting actor.
Supporting actor, best supporting actor. So at the Oscars last night, that was won by Daniel Kaluuya, which was one of a few categories this year that did feel very sewn up from the get-go. Daniel did win pretty much at all the main Oscar precursor awards, and very deservedly so. My goodness, he's amazing in Judas and the Black Messiah. It's another electrifying performance. It's really rousing and exciting, and he is just that. He's an incredibly exciting actor. So that is so deserved. Also in the category with Lakeith Stanfield, his co-star in Judas and the Black Messiah, which is a curious thing because they're both incredibly meaty parts, and that does raise some questions about these categories in general, and maybe the value of them is changing, because there's sort of no clarity anymore, and having two black actors running and supporting when they're not is a really uncomfortable problem, I would suggest.
So I mean it's that latter part that's like, because the category fraud thing happens a lot. Like that's happened all the time, and I know there's problems with it and it should be addressed. But the real concern is like there is no lead if you put those two in supporting.
Exactly.
And how whoever's voting for both of them, like what does that mean of that person? like what? I just don't understand, because the only other potential lead would be Jesse Plemons. It's like, but he's not. Like there's no way that there is anyone but either of those people. And so it is a real shame. As much as though I'm so happy to say Lakeith is an Oscar nominee.
Oh, absolutely.
Kaluuya is a winner.
It's great. So the fact to get them in there, good. I'm all for that. So hey, with the bad, you take the good. But it also was a strong category. You also have Paul Raci in there for his amazing turn in The Sound of Metal. Perhaps my personal favorite in the bunch, but they're all doing good work. So we on top of those, we also have Leslie Odom Jr. for his work as Sam Cooke in Regina King's One Night in Miami, and
Once Upon a Time in Miami, is that where?
yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Is that where you were
I've
going?
made it a Tarantino flick. And Sacha Baron Cohen for his performance in Aaron Sorkin's The Trial of the Chicago 7. But for the purposes of this, I'm going to maybe remove him. So, Sacha, you're good. You've had a great year, but I'm just going to take you out, and I am going to present a young actor called Toby Wallace for his amazing, amazing work in a small Australian film called Baby Teeth.
I've just been kicked out of my house.
Evicted?
Yeah, evicted, and I'm sort of trying to put some money together to get a bed and a shelter for the night.
Why'd you get evicted?
Just because I got behind on my rent. I hate to ask you, you just seem like a really nice person.
How much?
Just whatever you can manage. It doesn't have to be much. Just gotta save your life or whatever.
I only got 50.
50? That's too much. I can't.
Can split it?
No. 50's okay.
Now, Baby Teeth is also one that's very readily available at the moment. In the UK, it is on Netflix. So if you haven't watched Baby Teeth, please go and watch this film. So I have a lot of really warm feelings towards Baby Teeth for a start. I saw it at the London Film Festival in 2019. I loved it from the get-go. I thought it was really impressive and interesting. And then when cinemas started reopening in summer last year after the first sort of lockdown in the UK, it was the first film I went and saw back in a cinema on my second visit of it, and I loved it even more, perhaps. So Baby Teeth is I guess when you describe it just in terms of the plot, it does sound like a kind of trite Sunday afternoon type weepy that you've seen a million times before, but it's really, really not. So it is a teenage girl who is unwell and has cancer, and it's about sort of her and her family's battling with that, coupled with a romantic thread which involves Toby Wallace. So it's not like what you get with other films of this nature, in that it's really authentic and I would say quite prickly. It's a little bit tricky. It's a little bit I don't know. It's just more kind of zippy and exciting than you would normally get from fare like this, which can be very staid.
It feels like it's genuinely coming from the characters. Like so, rewatching it recently because like you, I saw it in the cinema, and then we're watching it recently on Netflix. The thing that really stood out about it was I don't like the conflict isn't like that she's very unwell or that he's like dangerous. It's kind of like they all have their own issues. All these, like the mother, the father, this Toby's character, and the main character with cancer. And it's
exactly
that's making the story. It's not that she has cancer.
Yeah, exactly. So it's again more of a sort of family dissection drama about a dysfunctional family. It is a sort of cancer drama, but it's far more about this wrong side of the tracks type romance. This young teenage girl played amazingly by Eliza Scanlon, who's another big sort of rising star, and I'm really excited for her to keep going because her performance in this as well is really fun and interesting and exciting. So she plays Mila, this, I think she's probably like 16, isn't she, in the film? And she meets the character of Moses, which is Toby Wallace's character, at a train station at the very beginning of the film. And immediately he's sort of dangerous, and, you know, there's something you can't quite put your finger on with him. But then there's an immediate charm and an immediate sort of warmth, and he plays this so well. I kind of think of him a bit like a wild dog or a stray dog, and unfortunately it's quite fitting with his character in that he has been kicked out by his parents, so he is sort of living a little on the rougher side, and he ends up getting sort of welcomed into Mila and the family life in their house, and it's sort of this stray dog entering this suburban hen house, and the feathers that get ruffled from that are really wonderful.
How old are you, Moses?
I'm 20.
16.
20. I'm 23.
I'm a bit freaked out by that. But Lucky for everyone, I forgot I'd taken a Zoloft when I took 2 Xanax while I was waiting for you at the hairdresser to show up, thinking you must have been abducted, because why else would you not even come?
We know that she's okay now, don't we?
God.
Right?
The whole cast here, though, is amazing. I think if Baby Teeth was a Hollywood film and with a slightly more prolific cast, I mean, there are big names in here. Essie Davis and Ben Mendelsohn are wonderful as the parents. But I think if it was a Hollywood film and they were doing work of near to the standard that's happening in Baby Teeth, it unquestionably would be nominated everywhere. The whole cast would be nominated. It's the definition of an incredible ensemble work. It's just really vibrant and full of life. So for a film with this kind of nature, it's just so vibrant and so full of life and joyous, and I think Toby Wallace for me is the standout because he just comes in and he's just incredibly natural. He's sort of animalistic, uninhibited, dangerous but vulnerable, good-hearted, magnetic. He just, when he's on the screen, it's so interesting. And the way he looks at the character of Milla like she's an alien sometimes. He just doesn't know what's going on. He's this curious dog kind of like character that I'm describing as this. And I just think he's doing wonderful work. And Toby Wallace has done a few kind of bits and pieces, more so on Australian TV. And he was in a Netflix show called The Society, which aired a year or two ago, which has since been cancelled. But he's working in the upcoming Danny Boyle Sex Pistols series. He's got a role in there, so that's exciting. So I do hope that he is going to get a lot more work to come. And he's a young chap. I think he's just about 23, 24. But he's magic in this. He's magic in a film which is in its own right magic. I think Baby Teeth is a real one of a kind, and I would recommend anyone towards it because it's really special.
And easily we could have filled all of like best supporting actors and best actress with these performances.
It could literally just be the main 4 players in this, and they would all be really valid contenders.
Yeah, no, it's a wonderful little four-hander.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we're going to go into like what we want for the future, and we're going to do that reflecting on who was nominated this year and what we'd like to where we'd like to see them go or what we'd like to see them nominated for. But before that, I have a few questions, as is our usual structure. If you're ready, Scott.
I'm ready.
The prize will be a slap from Leslie Manville. That's what it will be.
Okay, well, I would definitely take a slap from her over most other people. So
would I. Oh.
Okay, great.
Okay, so one thing I was really hoping for last night was a tie. I love a tie.
Yeah, it would be so good.
Do you know how many ties there have been in Oscar history? So more than one winner for one category.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I can only think of one in acting, I believe, which is the year that Katharine Hepburn and Barbara Streisand tied, Lion in Winter and Funny Girl.
Correct. 1969.
1969. But I don't think there was any others in the acting categories. But maybe else. I'm going to say there might have been elsewhere, and therefore on top of that being the only one I can think of off the top of my head, I'm going to say 3. I don't feel like it could happen often with the amount of people in the Academy.
So it's happened 6 times. Okay. The first time was 1932 for Best Actor, then 1950 for Best Documentary Short Subject. As you said, Best Actress, 1969, with Katharine Hepburn and Barbara Streisand. Sadly, Katharine Hepburn was not in attendance, so it was only Barbara Streisand on the podium. Imagine. Best Documentary Feature, 1987. Then in 1995, Best Short Film Live Action. And then the one which, during our Oscar watching time, was Best Sound Editing, 2013, which was, I remember that. I was so exciting. So
who won it again? I am remembering that now. Who won sound editing and tied it?
Skyfall and Zero Dark 30.
Yes, right. I do remember. Oh, yes. No, it is a fun thing, and it would have been so perfect last night given the nature of the the actress category in particular. Imagine they were just like, it's a 4-way tie.
Okay, very good. So you kind of got
got
a little bit of a point from there. Okay, so this is one of my all-time favorite moments ever in the Oscars, which I talk a lot about, so you will know of, but just for everyone at home. In 2003, at the 75th Academy Award ceremony, Olivia de Havilland came onto the Oscar stage to present a group of past winners for a very long-winded reunion. Scott, can you tell me how many past winners were on that stage? And just to be clear, in her introduction, she says, like, it's the 75th year of the Academy Awards. And for this, here are X of them past winners. And it's very like, what? What a weird number when it's 75. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, because I'm trying to remember who was on the... I don't even think I could remember who was there. Was it people across different categories? I'm trying to get this.
No, just random actors.
It was just random actors.
It was not. It did not make sense. Like, yeah, so it would have been better if they were like Jane Campion won a screenplay for the piano and all this, but no. Instead, it was just.
Yeah, I seem to remember it being so. At least they were all kind of visible. I might be completely wrong, and I've just literally this is weirdly emptied from my head. But I'm going to say like 10. Because I feel like they were fanned out, but I might be mistaking it with something else.
There was 59 of them.
Okay, whoa, so definitely way off.
No, it went on very, very long time. And then at the end, it was like, and here are the 4 new winners. And it was like, what? So like Catherine Zeta-Jones, Nicole Kidman, Chris Cooper, and Adrian Brody came out. And it was even I struggled with that. If that happened last night at like 4 a.m., I would have been like, stop the whole show. I can't deal with 20 minutes of this. But I still love it. It's a wonderful moment. Cool. So you were way off there.
Yeah, no, that's actually before my Oscar watching days. So that is why I wouldn't have known that. Sorry.
Well, as punishment, you will have to watch it on repeat until you can remember the exact. Okay, so what actor or actors have the most acting nominations without a win?
Actors have the most acting nominations without a win. 2, 8 apiece. Peter O'Toole and Glenn Close.
Correct, yeah. Peter O'Toole did win an honorary Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're closely followed by Richard Burton, who had 7 Oscar nominations. Okay. And then 6 is Amy Adams, who clearly is going to like chase up the scale, I would assume.
Yeah, big time.
Deborah Kerr and Thelma Ritter, they all had 6, those 3. So yeah, I mean, what company?
Yeah.
I want to be The Biggest Loser. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. It's a great list to be in. And then you're Glenn Close and you get to twerk at the end of an Oscar ceremony and get everyone chatting. So, hey.
Okay, so now can you tell me how many Best Actress winners were directed by women?
Whoa, that's a good question. How many Best Actress winners were directed by women? Oh my goodness, it's going to be very few. So obviously we have Frances McDormand being directed by Chloe Zhao.
Woohoo!
So that's 1. Holly Hunter, Jane Campion for the piano. Bigelow's never directed someone, even though Chastain should have won that year for Zero Dark 30. Who else could have? Let me think. No. Oh, it's gonna be like barely any, isn't it? Meryl Streep, the Iron Lady.
Yeah.
Hilary Swank, Boys Don't Cry.
Yeah.
Charlize Theron, Monster.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're on a bit of a roll.
I will tell you that there was no more in after 2000.
So that's all of them after 2000.
Mm-hmm.
And how many? Well, no, not how many, because that then answers the question. So no, forget that. No more clues. Okay, so there's no more after 2000. I've just named what, 5 names?
Mm-hmm.
1, 2. So I'm going to say there's going to be barely any before that. So I'm just going to make a stab because otherwise we're going to hear for hours and say that over the rest of history, maybe another 3. So I'm going to say 8.
So no, there was just one more. So as you said,
Okay.
Frances McDormand, No Man Land, directed by Chloe Zhao. Meryl Streep, The Iron Lady, Phyllida Lloyd. Jesus, I don't know. It is Phyllida Lloyd, isn't it?
Yeah, Phyllida Lloyd.
Charlize Theron. Okay, I'm just going to stop saying names. Charlize Theron in Monster. Patty Jenkins directed that. Hilary Swank in Boys Don't Cry. Kimberly Pierce. Holly Hunter. Jane Campion. And then there was one other, Marley Maitland. Children of a Lesser
Children
God.
of a Lesser God.
And Rhonda Haynes directed that.
Okay.
So, and she was also presenter last night, which was kind of fun. I mean, they weren't going to make that point of how few best actress winners were directed by women, but I just think that was an interesting.
That is really
stat.
interesting.
6
So
out of
only
93.
6, and I can then imagine Best Actor is probably going to be even less than that.
I would assume so, but I couldn't tell you that off
the top of my head, neither.
But actually, yeah, I can't think of any. And I'm just going to flag this, not a mess, but Frances McDormand and Meryl Streep would have had enough leverage to get those films off the ground. And for both of those, it was a combination between them and the director that would have made that movie. So
exactly.
This is my way of just saying how, there's a lot of problems with institutional problems like this. But something like No Man Land winning, I think, is incredible.
Yes, it is an incredible win.
For these reasons.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you did all right. You didn't lose. I don't think you're not going to get a slap. So I think that's a positive outcome.
Well, yeah, you could look at that either way, I guess.
But if Leslie wants to give you one, who am I to stop her? So let's go into the future stuff. Like, I think there's a clear person to talk about, would be Glenn Close. So
yes.
Glenn Close has lost 8 times. She's threatening doing her Sunset Boulevard stage adaptation musical. Which, if I say right here, right now, if that does win her Best Actress, I will... What I don't know what I could do, but I'll eat my hat. Is that the sort of shit people say?
Yeah. You should eat it. Your big hat you're wearing now.
Yeah, my big non-existing hat. It's just, I just can't imagine that turning out well. After seeing it on stage, it just feels like a very long-winded musical that doesn't translate to cinema, particularly when there already is this incredible film that exists of Sunset Boulevard. But I do think Glenn, if Glenn keeps working the way she is working and doing interesting roles and pushing herself, why couldn't she win? I know the wife situation was her moment, and how she lost it. Probably a bit like Chadwick Boseman. I think people just presumed there was enough people voting for her, so they voted for whoever else they wanted. I imagine is what happened that year with Olivia Colman winning for The Favourite. But Glenn could have a moment. A Best Supporting Actress, probably best option. Minari 2 with Glenn Close.
Oh yeah, both of them in it. Oh, so sweet.
Yeah, a buddy comedy. They go to New York. I don't know what they do. What do you think of Glenn and the future?
Oh, I mean, I'm really desperate for it to happen. It's always fun to kind of smirk at it, but only because I think she does have a good sense of humor and she would take it well. But yeah, I just want something. I mean, for me, The Wife wasn't the one, even though I can admire it and I think it's an interesting role. Hillbilly Elegy definitely wasn't the one, but there is things that I just wish she got more of. Like my Glenn performance is Dangerous Liaisons and Fatal Attraction. I love to, obviously, but Dangerous Liaisons, I love what she's doing there, the intensity she's bringing, this bubbling energy. And when Glenn Close is used right, it is amazing, and I just want that, but I want it to be the right thing. I want it to connect, but it to be the right thing. So basically, keep casting Glenn, give her good stuff, probably is going to be a solid supporting role that's going to be the thing that tips her into the win now. But I'm absolutely here for it. Come on, willing it into the world, Glenn. It'll happen.
I'd love like a Nancy Meyer style, like romantic comedy, like
Please.
Something's Gotta Give, where she's giving a whole load of stuff going on, and because she is so much fun on social media when as we say, she's like twerking to debut, all that sort of thing. I think that would be fun, particularly after Hillbilly and The Wife, and they're heavy, and Sunset Boulevard is heavy again. And to have her sing is glorious, yeah. But I just get really nervous when I keep seeing everyone's like, oh, don't worry, Glenn's going to win for Sunset Boulevard. Like, but why? In what are you like? What are the examples is she following for that? Like Phantom of the Opera? What? Like Cats? Like Andrew Lloyd Webber? Like Evita is probably the best adaptation of his work, or Jesus Christ Superstar, but they're not.
Jesus Christ Superstar,
they're not there. Yeah. So no, I don't have any doubt Glenn will be back, and if not, she's going to win an honorary award. They're going to have to give her one, and that will be glorious.
Yeah, which that is nice, but no, I want her to win the competitive Oscar, which she does. She does deserve. Yeah,
I imagine all of the people that bet her to be standing on stage. So you've got Meryl Streep, you've got Cher, you've got Olivia Colman, you've got oh my god, my mind's going blank now of all the 8 people that bet her, but them all on stage to like say different things, and it's kind of like a retrospective. I'd love it.
Oh my god, that would be so great. One of the stats from last night that I really loved when I read it: if Amanda Seyfried won, then all 3 generations of the Mamma Mia women would have beat Glenn to an Oscar. So that would have been fun had that happened.
Okay, well now I'm hoping she's nominated 2 more times. Once where she is bet by Amanda, and then when she wins, actually, because then Amanda could be a part of that trio. Maybe they could all sing an ABBA song at her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dancing Queen. Okay, there we go. Oscar producers, make it happen.
Oh my god, so in for it. Similarly, on the kind of flip side, so taking kind of what Glenn would have been much earlier in her career is this incredibly reliable, strong performer. Carrie Mulligan, this train is surely on course now. She has been doing amazing, like literally amazing work since she started and hit big time in An Education. I mean, I know she was in things before that, but that's where she first made her mark. But she then hasn't been nominated for an Oscar since An Education, has she?
Which is mental, because...
Which is wild. Fully bananas, because there's so much stuff that should have been.
Like Shame. I had in my head, like, she was definitely nominated for Shame. And then when I went back, and I was like, whoa, but she also has all these other parts. And also these other films like Mudbound, which for whatever reason didn't like click with award voters in a big way. Yeah. So she's been she deserves to be. Well, what I would hope would happen from the nomination and from the huge success of Promising Young Woman is that so many opportunities are offered to her, because she seems so open to like new voices and ideas and storytelling. Like, she's a very exciting personality as well as an actor. So,
and whereas I can often think about maybe what specifically I'd want for them down the line in terms of a director, with Carrie, it like you say, she's open to voices, and it could be anything and everyone. Like, you could take the lineup for directing nominees last night, and I would say she should work with all of them. So she should work with Emerald Fennell again. That would be amazing. Chloe Zhao, get her in there. I can imagine her and David Fincher getting on really well, because they both seem quite precise in what they're doing a lot of the time. So I think that could be a really good fit. But I don't doubt it's going to happen. And like you're saying, off the back of this sort of support and love for Promising Young Women, I think Carrie's name is going to be right in the forefront of casting directors and directors' minds. So I'm here for it.
I'm just going to put this out here. I know I'm now like I'm ending every person with like a rom-com, but I would love to see her in a rom-com thing with Riz Ahmed. Well, let's put Riz Ahmed in every movie ever. Riz Ahmed's wonderful. That was a highlight. Like, he has never looked so handsome, and he also was so like happy to be there. Mm-hmm. And he was given like he was great. It was all very lovely. But Riz Ahmed could, like, I've no doubt again, he's another one a bit like Carrie that's gonna, has making interesting choices. It's so great that Sound of Metal has given him like a bigger platform. But yeah, him and Carrie would be great. Also, Carrie was
good.
doing an interview and she was asked about like who was she excited to meet, and she says Riz Ahmed. So now in my head, I'm like, well, there we go. Something's going to happen.
There we go. Oh my god, maybe they'd like literally sat down afterwards and like, how are we going to make this happen? Do you have Nancy Meyer's number? Yes, I do. Let's give her a.
No, I wouldn't put them in Nancy Meyer.
I know, I'm
oh,
joking.
No. Oh my!
I'm
Imagine
joking.
an Emerald Fennell like rom
Ooh,
com, but with
yes,
like
that's a
some
great
sort of like
shout.
yeah.
Oh my god, get it, get her, get a letter written now.
So, moving away from the actors, I would. I mean, you know, of course, I'm going to go with these people, but Pixar have like a stranglehold on the animation feature category. But what about Cartoon Saloon? They, you know, this year they were nominated for Wolfwalkers, lost to Soul, and they've had, you know, Song of the Sea, Secret of Kells, and they just haven't won.
Oh, it's because it's the unbudgeable bloody Pixar. I mean, obviously Pixar put out good films, but yeah, you're right. It's just sort of really dull city now with their
And it is, and even seeing like Pete Docter take to the stage is a very. It's kind of like you again, and not in an exciting way, like you said, like with Frances McDormand or whoever. But I don't know. There's something to like badly quote the film like soulless about giving them that award again and again and again. I do like Soul. Like that makes it sound like I don't like the movie. It's fine, and there's a lot of amazing things to it. But it's like I don't know. I think it seems strange to keep rewarding the same sort of thing because I think Soul is very similar to Inside Out, and Inside Out superior.
Yeah.
So just to like reward it again and again, but they will have their moment. Cartoon Saloon.
Yeah, surely. Yeah. I mean, everything they seem to be, or certainly those three you've named, have been very beloved, and they're all really. It's really beautiful stuff. Wolfwalkers was gorgeous. So yeah, that's a really good point of suggestion. It should. They need to clear off, or just Disney in general, because I mean sometimes there is the occasional win where it is just a not a Pixar but a Disney animation studio. So your Moanas, your Frozens, things like that. But let's just have them step aside completely and let one of the other dogs in.
Yes, and then the only other one I have, and it's definitely going to happen, is I'm in love with the work of Emile Mosseri, the composer he was nominated this year for Minari. He also composed the music to Miranda July's Kajillionaire last year. Incredible film, incredible score. And also did the score to Last Black Man in San Francisco. Incredible score. And he's just someone I think that will be there. I want to be careful that I wish this, because I feel like with composers, when they like them, like then one year they'll be nominated for like 3 things. So but he will be doing that anyway. But that he keeps on working with people like Miranda July, and making these really interesting choices. Yeah, I'd love him to take to the stage.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. His music's really gorgeous. So I'm all for that.
But yeah, and the last one I wanted to point out, because we've had this conversation off the podcast, but Viola Davis is someone who basically deserves all sorts of roles, all sorts of opportunities.
Oh yeah.
But isn't getting them. Like I do, like as much as it's amazing that she's been nominated however many times, she was very close to winning for Ma Rainey. It still feels like she's being boxed in a little bit in terms of what she's capable of and what's being offered to her. So blow the doors off, like do something. Like I don't know, it's really frustrating because she clearly wants to, and has a production company and is trying to get these things off the ground. But then when she makes something as great as Widows, it's kind of ignored.
Yeah, exactly. It's strange. It is like she feels typecast. And hey, she's in terms of these performances she's getting nominated for, she's absolutely incredible, and it makes sense. And but she just always is, and there's just so much more strings to her bow, and it needs to be harnessed and used. But I mean, she is one of the most talented working actresses, of course. So yeah, more things like Widows and just different things. And hey, let's just keep throwing out this desire for rom-coms. Viola Davis in a rom-com, fuck yeah, please.
Yeah. Yes, she would be wonderful.
Sexy and just it's so exciting to
She's
watch.
so sexy. Yeah. Oh, that's a great shout. Or even Mamma Mia 3. Bring her in as
There we go.
I don't know how. Where does she fit into the family tree? We don't know. But then she can be someone that also beats Glenn Close at an Oscar ceremony. I don't know. Keep that train going. Just cast her in everything. I'm presuming she has a beautiful voice.
Yeah.
Not that it matters. Pierce Brosnan isn't got a nice voice, and
exactly.
he's able to sing.
Sound rough as old boots, and
so it doesn't matter. So yeah, I feel really like hopeful for all of them.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like obviously I do, and that's why we do this podcast. But they're all so good, and even like Delroy Lindo and Carrie Coon, Leslie Manville, of course, and Toby Wallace.
Yeah, these are all going to have good careers from here. I feel really confident in it. And I think just this year in general, I think a lot of people are going to have some complaints about last night's Oscars, but I think there's a lot of optimism there. There's a lot of things to be excited about. We champion stuff that otherwise might have flown under the radar had it been a different year, or maybe it just wouldn't have. So let's jump up and down and keep banging the drums for Nomadland. Let's not say, oh, it's the winner now, so, oh, of course, boring, like we can often do. No, let's say this is a fucking great win. Let's have more of this. Let's just have great cinema. We want them to be back open. We want to have a good time. And I just think it's a good time to be excited about cinema.
Yeah, I would just like caveat that if you don't like Nomadland, absolutely fine. But what I would say is like, don't start saying like it didn't deserve, like all these things are objective. So it doesn't really matter who wins these awards. It is amazing, and only the second best actress, best female director, things like that. Like it's mad to think like,
madness.
We're still like burning those kind of stats. Anyway, but loads of positive spins, and we now know how Daniel Kaluuya came to be on Earth in his speech about his parents having sex.
It turns out it was sex. How funny that. So
anyway, well, next week we are going to resume our usual thing. So we're going to be talking about one actor and reflecting on their career. But we hope you've enjoyed this sort of like reflection on this year's Oscars and some performances that we really like that were not being celebrated at the ceremony this year.
Yeah, I mean, it was maybe a little bit of a side diversion, but it's our podcast. We can do what we want. No, thank you for joining us in this
music. Sorry. I'm just trying to make Mamma Mia happen. Okay, so people can find us on Don't Know Her _pod on Twitter and Instagram. And if you have any thoughts, complaints, compliments, you can contact us at don'tknowherpod@gmail.com. All of that is very welcome. And so thank you. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, listeners.
Thank you. And here's to another great year of cinema ahead.
Yes, and do check out some of the films as you can. They will be hopefully coming out sooner rather than later everywhere, wherever you may be.
Mm-hmm.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.